Welcome to Assets Under Management, Episode 2. It's your boy Finance King, and today we got a lot to talk about. We're going to go over this week economic news. We had a short week last week, but it's still some good news that dropped, so we're going to go over that. We're going to go over what the stock market did or where it ended at. We're going to go over my product of the week as far as getting on the wealth journey and some products that will help you matriculate on the wealth journey. And then lastly, we're going to talk about my portfolio peak and also building a family foundation around finance. So stay tuned to Assets Under Management. So before we get started, if you like this content, if you like what you hear, if you want to hear more, please like and subscribe. It'll help the algorithms. It'll help me boost in ratings and therefore better serve you. All right. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. This week or last week, ending on Friday, the stock market closed at about 438. It was rejected off of the 442 high of the week, but if you look at it, it looks like it rejected the swing high was around between a 444 zone and 442 that went all the way back to March of this year, I believe. Swing high means that it was the highest at that point last time. Came back around last week and tried to retest it or go higher, and it failed. So where do I think we go next week? We could see a comeback down or consolidation around the 440 level, 438, and then try it again. Or this could be forming a double top and drop all the way back down to 430. So just keep your eye on that. The news that come out that may affect anything to do with the stock market, the S&P 500 increasing or decreasing. In other news, Facebook or Meta dropped Threads last week. I'm sure every one of you know, or most of you know by now, because Threads has gained 80 million downloads in the first 10 hours of it being live, which is the fastest social media app ever to grow. So is Mark Zuckerberg up to something? Maybe. But there is news that Threads can now potentially view your credit report. So how does Mark Zuckerberg use this data? We will find out. And lastly, in economic news that we'll cover, the FOMC minutes dropped last week. The FOMC minutes dropped last week. And some of the big takeaways, or the big takeaways, that you should expect more rate hikes to come later this year, but at a slower pace, as they see that rate hikes still are needed to control inflation and to slow down the economy. However, they do acknowledge that the economy is slowing, just not at the rate that they would like. So expect further rate hikes, but expect them at a slower pace. And that was the new economic news for the week. On to the next segment. I'm a financial advisor, so I know a plethora of wealth management products or wealth building products. This week, I want to talk about whole life insurance. I know if you follow me for a long time, I probably talked about it on different platforms, but this is Assets Under Management. And so let's get to it, starting on this platform. Whole life insurance is a form of permanent and life insurance. When you get permanent life insurance, the contract states as long as you pay the premiums, the life insurance will pay out upon death benefit. Now, not to get too deep into the weeds, but there are things that you can put on the contract that says if you're not able to pay the premium, there's other ways the premium can be paid out of the contract or out of the death benefit or out of the cash value, whatever. That's neither here nor there. That's a different conversation. But I do want to talk about the nuances of life insurance. Most people know that life insurance or whole life insurance is a permanent product, right? But I want to talk about what you could use it for. Give you some examples. So example number one, you can use whole life insurance for retirement income. Now, they say life insurance is supposed to be for the life of the person. And that is correct to some extent. So what do I mean by you can use it for retirement income? Well, if you have whole life insurance and you had it at an early age, and when you get to 65, or let's say 65, the retirement age, right? 60, 65. So when you get to 65, you have a plethora of cash value stored up in this whole life insurance policy. Now, one of the ways that the cash value is stored up is because you pay premium, but another way is that there are dividends being added on or being accumulated in the process of you paying these dividends and having this policy. So if you have enough dividends, let's say you have $40,000 worth of dividends, you can withdraw the $40,000 per year worth of dividends, as instead of having it going back into the policy, you can withdraw that as income and live off of that for your retirement. So let's say you had a different account, maybe you have a 401k, maybe you get Social Security, maybe you get a pension here or there, maybe you have investments that give you interest, and you pull that as well. You can now take all of these forms of payments, put it together with the whole life insurance paying out the dividends, and you can live off of that. So that's one way that you can use it outside of the traditional ways that everyone talks about with permanent life insurance. Another way that you can use whole life insurance, of course, is borrowing from the cash value to do whatever you want with it. Essentially, there is no credit check. There is no approval status that you have to go through. You pretty much just fill out a form. You want to borrow the money, you borrow it, you get it, and you pay it back if you choose to. You don't have to pay it back, but if you don't pay it back, it will be withdrawn from your death benefit. So those are two ways that you can use whole life insurance for your advantage. I just wanted to put it out there how you can use whole life insurance to benefit your actual life, instead of just having to pay into a product and then you die and you never really get any benefit of it other than you're leaving something for your children or your heirs or whatever. We want to enjoy life while we're here. And one of the best ways to do it is by using a whole life insurance policy, believe it or not. So that was our product of the week. Now, let's move on to our next segment. Before we go, if you like what you're hearing, if you like the content that I'm producing, please click the like button, subscribe to the channel. It helped me out a lot. It helped out the algorithm, and it keeps me motivated, to be honest. So I love what I'm doing here. I love getting feedback from you guys. But click the like, click the subscribe button, and stay tuned with me. Stay rocking with me, man. Get notified whenever I drop a new episode, all right? Whew. One of my favorite parts. Let's get into the portfolio peak. Portfolio peak is pretty much a look into what I'm doing personally in the finance world, what I'm doing personally in the stock market, and pretty much some help that you can do, or some things, some advice that I can give you to help you uh, increase your financial awareness. So this week, we're going to start off with a pretty simple concept. I opened up a new brokerage account just for this podcast. I opened it up and I deposited $200 in there, and I will deposit $200 per month into the account for now. It may increase, over time. I may go from 200 to 500. What say you? But for now, it's $200 down payment and then a $200 deposit per month into this account. And we're going to use this account and grow this account together. All right. I'm going to show you what I'm doing in the account, what I'm purchasing. We're going to talk about what stocks I may look to get into, what trades I may like, and different things like that. So I just wanted to put that out there, because moving forward, we're going to start talking about this portfolio. So if you're rocking with me, stick to it. You're going to see it live. You're going to see full transparency with this account. And so that's one of the things that I like doing, assets under management. My goal professionally, as I told you last week, was to get to 500 million in assets under management. Well, I have a personal goal as well, and that's to get to 100,000 in this account. and then we're going to remove this account and then go to a million. All right. So we're starting right here live, and hopefully, a year, 6 months, 2 years, whatever the time case may be, we can look back and say, hey, we started a goal and we hit our goal. All right. And we all did it together. So without further ado, let's get into our segment, which is portfolio peak. So now that you know what I'm going to do with my portfolio, let's get into the contents inside of the portfolio peak. This week, we're going to talk about what you can do as a family to push yourself forward or to push your family forward financially, right? It's called the family foundational documents, right? Now, every family should have a set of documents in place so that the family knows what to do in case something happens, right? Where the information is. It should be an information hub if something happens to the breadwinner, to a child, to whomever it may be. But there's a place where any family member can go, any immediate family member can go to pull up this information to find out what to do and how to access it. The first thing that goes inside the family foundational documents, every family member should have life insurance. Yes, every family member should have life insurance. That includes the children. So the head of the house should have life insurance enough to pay out the responsibilities until either the children are out the house or until the person will have retired. So let's take me, for example. I'm not going to wish anything or talk about anything on anybody else. So let's take me. I'm the breadwinner of my family. If I were to pass, I should have life insurance. If I were to pass at 35, I should have life insurance that will cover the expenses for the next 30 years. That takes me to retirement if I was to be alive, right? So that takes care of my expenses until retirement. That also allows my children to grow up and have, worry debt free because their expenses are taken care of as well as if I was here alive. So that should be the breadwinner. Then everyone else should have life insurance to either take them up into they're retired if they're adults, or have a minimum of 10 years of expenses paid for, right? Now, the children should have a permanent life insurance, and it's best to get it when they're young. As soon as you get the social security number of a child, as soon as you get the social security number of a child, my advice would be to open up a permanent life insurance, whole life insurance policy. Why? Because it's the cheapest that it'll ever be, and they'll have it for life. As long as you, the parent, the guardian, or whoever's paying on the insurance will continue to pay on the insurance policy until they're 18 or until you pass it over to them. You don't have to pass it over to them. So as long as you continue to pay the premiums, you will see that the policy will pay them out for life. And it could be as cheap as $15, as cheap as $25, as cheap as $50. So my children's policies are $50 each, and it's $125,000. So over time, by the time they're 18, it'll grow well above $125,000. All right. That's that. That's the first thing that should be in this foundational document. The second thing, the breadwinner of the family should have disability insurance, enough disability insurance to cover the expenses of the family. Okay. So if you died, your expenses are covered. If you didn't die, but something happened to you where you can't work anymore, maybe you get sick, maybe you're in an accident, who knows? But your expenses are paid for because you have this disability insurance. Now, there's two types of disability insurance, two main types or two main categories, let's say that, of disability insurance. First is any occupation, the second is own occupation. So let's break that down. Any occupation. If you are a doctor, a judge, a surgeon, any high level job, this is important for you to pay attention to. Because if you are a surgeon, for example, and you pay all that money to go to school, you put yourself through 10, 12 extra years of schooling outside of, the foundational K through 12. and you go skiing and you break your hand. And now, it's not a serious injury, but it's serious enough to where you can't fully squeeze, your hand. If someone deemed that you could not do surgery anymore because you broke your hand and you can't grip the tools the way you need to, well, if you had any occupation disability insurance, guess what? If you could work at Walmart getting paid $15 an hour when you're used to getting paid 500,000 a year, that's any occupation. You can work, you don't get disability insurance. But if you had own occupation, where I could not do my own occupation anymore, you would still get paid out your disability insurance. And then you could say, okay, I can't be a surgeon anymore, but maybe I could be a professor at an Ivy League school teaching medicine, teaching surgery classes, and get paid another 300,000, 400,000, 200,000, 100,000, whatever the case may be. But you'll still have a job where you can make a living for yourself and still collect that disability check every month as if you were still a surgeon. All right, so that's number two. Number three, everyone should have health insurance, and this should be inside the family foundational documents so that we know what is covered if we ever need to use our health insurance, right? So if my wife or my girlfriend, your husband, your mom, your grandma, whoever, if they grab the card to give to the doctors, or they should be able to look inside this document and say, okay, yes, we know that this is covered if you had to go to the hospital or anything like that. The fourth is a will. Now, every parent in the household should have a will, but it's most important that the head of the household have a will. The head of the household needs a will because the will is gonna determine where the assets go, right? What you leave behind, where it goes, who it goes to, how it gets there, everything like that, how it's broken down, what is disseminated, out of the accounts to who. That determines what happens. If you don't have that, basically anything could happen. It could be up for probate, it could not get claimed after a certain amount of time. The government can hold on to it until the minors are 18, and then you have to pay for the services of the government holding on to your assets. So make sure that you have a will. I do want to say that you need to have a trust as well. Now, a trust just protects you from creditors or anyone, in order to keep your assets protected. It takes all of the assets out of your name, you put it into the trust name, and now if anyone tries to sue you particularly or anything like that, you actually don't own anything, but you can control everything. Also, the trust can dictate how the assets are passed down to your children without probate or tax free. Okay. So I do want to say if you're passing down a house or anything like that, there is something called a step up in basis that you should look out for. You don't have to pay taxes on the entire price of the asset, but if the asset increased in uh, value from the time that you had it to the time that you pass it down, that difference is taxable. Okay, so I do want to say that. Power of attorney. Okay, you need to have a power of attorney in place. Now, what a power of attorney is basically if you didn't die but something happened to you, you were incapacitated, you could not make decisions, there will be somebody who legally acts on your behalf, making decisions in your best interest. And that's very important. If anything ever happened, the power of attorney will know what to do in this situation or will make its best judgment, his or her best judgment, based off of you and only you. Okay. Those are pretty much all of the foundational documents that you should have, your household should have, and it should be all in one place. Now, this place could be on a hard drive, in a file. It could be paper. It could be in a folder, in a binder. But these things all need to be in place. It needs to be organized. I like to organize ours by person, and then inside of the person it will have the documents, and then the next person inside of that person's folder will be documents, so on and so forth. So All you had to do if you were to my family, you find Hakeem, you go to Hakeem's name, flip the tab. Oh, I need to go here. Boom. Now, if this is online, you have accounts and stuff. Please have all of that stuff inside. You got a bank account with your passwords. Put it inside. If you don't trust your spouse or anybody who's gonna maybe look at this information, then you got bigger problems than this right now. So make sure it's in there. You want to make sure that you have beneficiaries on all of your accounts, your bank accounts, your HSAs, your uh, life insurance, anything that you can put a beneficiary on, put a beneficiary on your account. And if you want to put a minor as a beneficiary, use the trust first and dictate that the trust pays out whatever is coming in from this account to the minor. That way it can be controlled by the trustee and it doesn't have to go to the government, and you don't have to pay on the government servicing that account or that payout or whatever. So you want to avoid all of that by making sure that your family trust is the beneficiary on a lot of things that is for the minor. Okay? And the last thing we're going to say about having the family foundational documents is that I think it's important to have a conversation biannually or at least annually, right? Just reviewing the documents. If anything changed, do we have a new child? We need to update the folder. We need to get the child life insurance. We need to add them as a part of the health insurance. We need to make them a beneficiary of certain accounts so that he can get, or he or she can get assets if anything happens. You know what I'm saying? So these are things that you need to have at least twice a year or at least once a year. I like twice a year, but at least once a year, right? Talk about these things. Can we add more into certain accounts? Can we increase our life insurance because we bought a new house? Maybe our assets increase so that our expenses increase. So we need to maybe increase our life insurance. Did we make more money? Did we get a raise? Do our disability need to be increased? So these are things that you don't set it and forget it, right? You come back to it and you go over it at least once a year, at least. That'll save you a whole bunch of money, you know. And even this, I've seen this a lot of times where there are married couples, they get divorced, but they never change the X off of the beneficiary. So if something happened, the X could be 10 years ago, have a whole new family, but now they are responsible for claiming, the beneficiary money or receiving the beneficiary money. Meanwhile, the new family over here is left with nothing, right? So we don't want that to happen. That's why you review this once a year at the minimum. And that's all I got for you guys. This is Finance Keem on Assets Under Management. We're going to get back to it next week. Stay tuned. I love y'all. Stay for rocking with me. Thank you for rocking with me. Finance Keem, I'll see you on the other side.